All right. Let's rant about it. Let's rant about it. Another disgusting loss from this Warriors team, blowing a large fourth quarter lead against the Wolves last night. D'Lo revenge game, right? Nas Reed looked good though, didn't he? He gonna be worth about 4 first-round picks after that performance. He looked good out there. The Wolves went small. I had a feeling when they said Rudy was out, I was like, that's probably gonna end up biting us in the butt. Just playing small, and I wouldn't call it the Ewing effect exactly, but I thought that it would open things up for Minnesota and probably help them in the matchup, because we tend to exploit Rudy every time we see him. It doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing. But yeah, man, I mean, it was just, I tweeted out after the game, I was like, Steph, his shooting has really masked the fact that he hasn't played well since he returned from the shoulder injury. And, he's been low-key inefficient for himself, but again, the shooting has kind of cured or hidden that fact. And it's just a lack of engagement, a lack of focus. We know the careless turnovers, helping off the strong side corner defensively, just a lot of mental lapses from Steph. I think he's having a hard time dialing in and focusing. And we keep hearing the flip the switch term, urgency, all these things from these guys. They're spewing it, but then we don't see it on the court. I thought that Steph was flipping the switch. When was it? It was that final home game before this road trip against Toronto. And it wasn't until that fourth quarter, you notice he got a little spicy. He started shimmying, and what I thought he was doing was he was trying to fire himself up and trick himself into acting like this was important for him. And locking in, and they, they'd won 3 in a row here. And so I know some people are going to say, well, this is a knee-jerk reaction. But within the context, even of these 3 wins, even late in Oklahoma City the other night, it was like, dude, what are you, that over the head pass late to Clay when there was all these little things. There was like, dude, that could have bit us in the butt as well. And it's, when you were in school and you're learning science, you're learning chemistry, right? The periodic table. And you realize you add this element, and it makes a potion, right? And you change one little element and it changes the entire potion, right? You have to have the right ingredients to have the right chemistry. And I think that ultimately, what happened, Draymond, Jordan, that element altered the potion in the chemistry of this team. And then you combined it with the fact that they pay Poole, they pay Wiggins, they don't pay Draymond. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying I think that altered the chemistry of this team. And it only takes, again, one little element to be off to ruin all the chemistry. And so now the Warriors sit here with just too many agendas. I think there's too many agendas for them to be connected. And when you think about Warrior basketball and that beautiful ball movement and the pace they play at, it has to be connected in order for it to work. Listen, there's going to be turnovers. That's systemic, the way they push the pace. I'm sitting here with my Niners beanie. It's a rough week for the Niners. And I will say this, that the Warriors' turnovers are systemic, just like the Niners' injuries are systemic. Kyle Shanahan's scheme puts his quarterbacks at risk. I don't want to hear anything else about it. I digress. This isn't a football channel. But yes, there will be turnovers. But the reason I think we're seeing such poor late game execution is, again, they're not connected to play the way that they need to play. And it starts probably with that incident and then the contracts and all these questions around the team. It's impossible for them to be connected. You've got Poole trying to prove his value and become a star in this league. Clay, while he has played very well, let's be honest, Clay's playing for Clay. Clay's doing what he's doing, right? And then is there this element of Steph? I feel like Steph is almost going through like a midlife crisis basketball-wise, where he's trying to show the young boys in this next generation coming up, like, I could do that too. I could watch this. Because let's be honest, listen, don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. Steph is one of the most special athletes and basketball players ever. Changed the game. We know that. I don't got to go into the detail of that. But the truth is, now that he's changed the game and you look around the league, everybody kind of does what Steph does. Not to his level, right? But guys hit 7, 8 threes a night. Like everybody's playing in that style. And it almost feels like Steph in his older age is kind of like, nah, like, all right, I can ISO, I can do this stuff. Like, and he's kind of getting caught up in playing that way again, because they're not connected. Draymond's got to wear, I think Draymond's been all right on the court, but he, for his own, we know why, has taken away his voice and connection. And so there's just all these different things getting pushed and pulled in different ways. And that's why late game execution, I think that's a big part of it. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, Kerr is only using an 8-man rotation. He's only using an 8-man rotation. I think it's affected Draymond. I think that Draymond is wearing the brunt of that fatigue, just trying to make up for mistakes and being the only big, right? But as far as Steph goes, and listen, I don't. It's too early to say this. We'd have to see the rest of this 30 games play out of this season, right? But when you talk about Father Time creeping in, is it that he's such a good shooter that we're not quite seeing it, right? Like, to me, if you watch, he's getting off balance a little more. He's finishing weird with these 2-footed floaters, and it's still effective because he's still making shots because he's a God tier shooter. But as far as Father Time creeping in, does Steph have to adjust his game a little bit moving forward? Because outside of, yes, being the greatest shooter of all time, what do you think of Steph and his style of play? What's the next ingredient or element of Steph's play? It's his movement, right? It's when you track him, it's the track meet, it's the stamina, the conditioning, it's well documented. But now, about to be 35 years old here in March, can he play at that pace as he ages and still be as efficient? I'm not saying he can't. I'm just proposing that question. Now, the other issue is the fouls. And in these young guys, I think that is a symptom of not having size and rim protection. Because what you look at, and it's like, we want to protect Steph. He almost fouls out of that game. But the concept defensively is everybody has to overhelp down to the nail and overhelp in the paint because they're gang rebounding and they're making up for their lack of size. But what does that do? It creates all these long closeouts. And that in turn is why all the foul issues. I think that's the root of it. Now, some of it is just young guys being undisciplined. Kuminga gets handsy. You saw him do that last night. But overall, you see them have to make all these long closeouts because there's no one behind them protecting the rim, right? And that's it's just all these things. And so I say all that to say, man, like I feel like they need to shake something up here. And I know a lot of you are going to say, when do the Warriors make trades at the deadline and what could they possibly do? But I get back to that chemistry talk and changing one element. And that's where I think even if it's a guy that's just, it's a marginal move, a Mason Plumlee, right? But you change one element and it just fixes how they can approach things. I don't have the answer to who that is. Hell, Naz Reid looked really good last night. I don't know what that element is, but I really do think that they're in need of a move here. Otherwise, this thing could end ugly this season. I know it's like, relax, they're all jumbled up here, but like, it just doesn't feel good. Even in victory, it feels like they're not playing that well, right? And so I don't have an answer for it. And Steph, my other theory was kind of like, well, what if he's not showing signs of age necessarily physically, but it's almost like mentally he's having a hard time engaging. And follow me here. Maybe I might lose you and this may just be too far off in left field, but it's like, it's almost as if Steph playing winning ball is no longer the number one motivating factor. He's done all that. He's conquered the league and he has nothing left to prove, right? We understand that. And so it's almost as if like he's got to find another reason to dial in and he's struggling doing that. I'll leave you with this. You heard Steph say, yeah, man, if we could have just closed out some of these games and not blown these leads, the narrative around the team would be completely different if we had 4 or 5 more wins, right? I think that right now they're in a worse spot than it even appears, because of the jumbled up standings and that even in victory, when's the last time it felt like they were like clicking and it was like, oh, here they come. And they just ran over a team. Nothing has come easy this year, right? And that's what's concerning. And then the line in the sand with the young guys and the vets and this push and pull. The vets saying, hey, we still got it. You see, there was all this hero ball last night between Steph and Clay. And I think an element of that is like, hey, it's still our team. We still got it. And they're trying to, like, again, midlife crisis, trying to show the league and Poole as well. And some of the young guys like, hey, we could do this. I could do this. And so the chemistry is off. There's not enough size. And I don't see it getting any better unless there's a trade. All right, my rant's over. I don't know what else to say. I'll be back with another one soon. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.